South Africa is struggling to meet the right standards of physical activity for children. That's according to the recently published Healthy Active Kids South Africa 2018 report card. Increasing child obesity rates are mostly being blamed on certain lifestyles. Well, to tell us more about this is Michael Mthethwa. He's a physical education specialist lecturer at the Embry Institute for Higher Education. He's in our studios in Durban, Tegwini this morning. Bob Mthethwa, good morning. Thank you very much for talking to us. Firstly, just an overriding question. We're seeing there's a link, according to research, that in order for us to counter rising child obesity, we need to get children to change their largely inactive lifestyles.
Morning, Dan. Thank you for having me. And that's quite correct when you say that there is a very, very strong need for our young learners, our school children in particular, from the grade 1s or the grade R specifically, all the way into the matriculant years, to change their current habits. I mean, we're currently seeing high levels of obesity within the South African region, especially areas such as KwaZulu-Natal and your Gauteng province, where you guys are situated at the moment.
Now, why is PE so important for learners?
It is such an important part of the development of the learner in terms of all the benefits that it yields for the individual. From a developmental point of view, there's physical skills that they learn within the classroom, or should I say within the field. There is a social connection which happens where we develop these important relationships. We understand the different barriers in terms of cultural relationships or verbal communication skills. But most importantly, it enables them to lead a healthy lifestyle, and an overall, you have a well-grounded learner who comes out healthy from the end of the school year, who leads into a future leader who's free of non-communicable diseases.
Now, most schools do have PE as part of their curriculum, as part of their activity. Now, why are they not doing it properly?
I think, Dan, it's very important for us to understand that all schools actually have PE as part of the curriculum, because it's prescribed in South African CAPS document. One of the many challenges we are seeing from an implementation point of view is that many schools lack the resources to implement actual quality physical education. Secondly, there is also a shortage of qualified personnel in terms of implementing the actual physical education lesson. And then the most important one that I think is eliminating or running the risk of making PE extinct is the actual attitudes of teachers to implement quality physical activity. Because that time is actually now, we're seeing a lot of trends amongst teachers using that time, which is allocated for the physical education component, being used for other topics which are viewed, or subjects which are viewed on a higher pedestal, such as your maths and sciences.
Now, I understand research, and that's the information you've sent to us as well, shows that about 32% of learners in South Africa do not participate in any form of physical activity at all. Whose responsibility is it? The parents' responsibility to encourage their child to be active, or the teacher's responsibility, or both?
It is a collective, Dan. It is very important for us to understand that what happens in the school curriculum also affects what happens in the home. So as a parent, you should be worried in terms of how much physical activity is my child getting, that meal that they're eating at the end of the day. What am I supplementing it with to ensure that they're engaging in forms of physical activity? Are they just purely eating the junk foods and going to sleep, which runs a very significant risk, which is going to impact them in their later lives in terms of a disease point of view? So it's very important for us to play a collective role. And I think it's not just the parent, the teacher, it is actually the government as well as the general community. I mean, in society, it's very important for all of us to hold hands and say, how are we developing our learners? Because ultimately, the more we develop our learners physically, that will have a better impact, or a better foundation ground for our teachers, and as well as our sports coaches, to develop our future sports stars.
Now, when you speak about physical education, you speak about activity, you speak about sports, many parents will say, I can't afford it. It's expensive. But is PE, should it necessarily be expensive, or are there other activities that can help without costing too much to keep the learner active?
I wouldn't say physical education is expensive, but it's also important to understand the benefit of physical education. I started on the point where one of the key components of physical activity is reducing the risk of lifestyle diseases. And as parents, we can't say it's expensive, so we're going to ignore that. Physical activity is not the most expensive task or implementation around. There are key games that you can play, such as indigenous games, which do not require an individual to go out to the shop to purchase something at a big sports warehouse shop, where they can design it at home.
Okay, no, thank you very much for your views there.